I found this case as customer return for 33 euros. This Kolink Inspire K3 Micro ATX has a tempered glass side panel and synchronizable RGB lighting, which is quite much for 35 to 40 euro price point. I actually couldn't find any proper review video, so I made one. The packaging is okay. Pulling the front panel off reveals two expansion bays, but they're not easily accessible, which kind of defeats the purpose. Only ports are one USB 2, one USB 3 port and sound input and output jacks on the top. There are also power button and RGB button, which can be used to control the front RGB if it isn't connected to a 12 volt 4-pin RGB header. The RGB also needs Molex power connected to 4-pin header or not. The case comes with an accessory bag which contains all the needed screws and for some reason a speaker. This case doesn't have a reset button. The RGB button is connected straight to the RGB strip. One disadvantage of this case is that it doesn't come with any fans and that it can only fit two fans 120mm in front and 80 or 90mm in the rear. Another disadvantage is that it doesn't come with any rubber insulation for an HDD, which you probably are going to use as a data or Steam game drive if you're building an affordable gaming rig. There is one 3.5-inch drive slot and two or three 2.5-inch drive slots, depending on if you use the 3.5-inch one. This case can fit different sizes of ITX boards or an matx board, though as shown here the RAM slots may get blocked by the expansion bay cage if using matx board. There are holes for cable management and cables can be routed through the right side area where there is some limited room for excess cabling, but this area is not very deep, so you will have easier time fitting the right side panel on when using a modular PSU. I will try to connect this RGB strip to an RGB controller as well as a motherboard header. The case has foam pads under its feet. I will now do a test build. Keep in mind that the parts which I am installing are not perfectly balanced performance-wise nor do they fit the best together looks-wise. My purpose is just to test the case by building in it and also test its thermal performance a bit. I am using a QL2X as CPU, which is actually mobile variant of i7, and a Vega 56 as GPU. The first thing I did wrong here is that I installed the MOBO and PSU before routing the CPU power connector. There is a hole for it, but it gets blocked by the PSU and MOBO. The 24-pin motherboard power connector also can't fit through with the PSU in place, so remember to pass through these cables first. Here I am just casually installing the rear fan the wrong way around. The PCIe slot covers are break-offs. The semi-useless expansion bay makes it hard to connect the PSU cables. At least it covers some of the cable mess. HDD mount in the bottom of the case leaves the HDD at a very visible spot. At this point I haven't realized that SATA power and the front fan need to be installed first. The front RGB can work independently or be connected to a motherboard 12-volt 4-pin header or on RGB controller. Though I was only able to get one of my controllers somewhat working, so I don't recommend doing that. Motherboard 4-pin with ASUS Aura Sync worked flawlessly. The right side panel is easiest to close with the case lying on its side. However, don't do that with the glass side panel on. This is how the case looks like. I do not personally like the plastic front panel, which looks somewhat worse in person than it does on video. It also blocks access to the expansion base, which could be useful with this limited front I/O. You could add a Type-C port or an SD card slot, but you can't easily access them, and this front panel is not effortless to detach. You will need two hands. So overall this case is quite cramped and has limited front I/O, but I think all the downsides are sensible when you consider the price, and this being a compact micro ATX case. This would be best fit for an affordable gaming build or case swap for an OEM like Dell or HP. I quickly tested the cooling performance. It seems to keep a blower Vega 56 cool enough to not throttle. However, limited cooling usually affects open air 2 fan cooled GPUs more. so I would stick with a blower model with this case. The CPU tested here was a QL2X engineering sample, which is actually a desktop adapted laptop CPU and therefore doesn't generate very much heat. I will be making a lot of videos about this CPU soon.